Hello, everybody. Today we are here to talk about the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, as known as TTIP. It's a free trade agreement between the United States and the European Union, which are the two largest economies in the world. The goal of this agreement is to make trade easier between these two superpowers by lowering the traffic, liberating the new markets, and merging the legislation between them. The main actors in this agreement are the European bodies like European Commission, the European Parliament and the European Council, besides industrial lobbies and, of course, the civil population. The TTIP negotiations come in a moment which both sides are losing economic and political power globally. Asia is gaining more power and importance in the international order, making both economies lose its powers in the main export of foreign direct investment. The TTIP would try to stabilize the Western predominance in the world. These negotiations are still in process, but once finished, it will be the world's largest trade agreement ever. About the background of TTIP. In 1990, the Transatlantic Declaration was signed by the American President George Bush, the President of the European Council, Giulio Andreotti, and the President of the European Commission, Jacques Delors. From this declaration emerged the Transatlantic Business Council in 1995, in which both American and European multinationals participate. This had been the main body that supports the creation of the TTIP, and has brought proposal to harmonize the two legislations.
They are calling it the fight of the century.
The biggest fight in a generation.
What has been dubbed the fight of the century.
The TTIP is an agreement that stands for free trade between the European Union and the United States that will create growth, and along with this, jobs and prosperity for both sides. We are in a moment in which Asian countries like China or India are rising in power, and the TTIP will enforce the geopolitical standing of the transatlantic bloc. Moreover, there are many products from both parties that are prohibited in the other one. With this agreement, these goods won't be prohibited anymore, meaning that the eradication of these protectionist barriers will create growth and business.
The EU bans genetically modified agricultural products, but the US allows them. If the treaty takes place and these bans were lifted, many European consumers would complain. This wouldn't be the only affectation in the agricultural industry. European agribusiness would suffer from the cheaper American-made food imports. Then, in Europe, the EU gives subsidies to every European country. The trade agreement would reduce the government's protection towards the agricultural sector, and as a consequence, food prices would increase. Producers of regions that live from food production complain that their products will be undermined by cheap foreign competitors. They are worried because this treaty would diminish the cultural heritage of regions famous for their food.
I disagree with you because I actually think that the TTIP agreement will benefit the agricultural industry because American farmers will expand as genetically modified agricultural products will be permitted by the European Union. Besides the agricultural industry, other ones will also gain profits. Pharmaceutical companies will cut costs because there will be a single agreed-upon drug testing program for both the US and the European Union. And the car industry will profit as there will be one unified standard. US car manufacturers wouldn't have to change their products before selling it to the European Union.
The European Commission estimates that the industries of metallurgy, agriculture, communications, transport, or electronics would suffer unemployment. An example is CETA agreement, in which a rise of employment was expected but brought about 1 million job loss.
Despite this possible jobs loss, the TTIP agreement would increase the GDPs of the US by 5% and the EU by 3.4%. We have to bear in mind that the US and the EU together represent the 60% of the global GDP. This fact will make other nations be encouraged to raise their own.
But, as Owen Tudor pointed out, precedent shows that when you increase the GDP of countries that have such poor defenses against inequality, the very rich will just get even richer. But what is the point of having high GDPs when you have to privatize basic services like health and education? This will directly affect marginalized populations. Moreover, there's a lack of transparency of the TTIP negotiations, as the talk has been held privately between government officials and business leaders. They don't take into account the civil population's opinion in this matter that affects us all.